Another Starship is about to light up the Texas sky, and this time the stakes feel higher than ever. SpaceX has just received the green light from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, to launch its 10th integrated Starship Super Heavy test flight on August 24th. The approval came after weeks of scrutiny following the partial failure of the previous mission, which ended with the loss of the upper stage and a dramatic tumble back to Earth. Here's where it gets controversial. Some industry insiders argue that the FAA's rapid sign-off, barely 6 weeks after the mishap, sets a risky precedent for how quickly private companies can return to flight after anomalies. What exactly changed between Flight 9 and Flight 10? According to SpaceX's official summary submitted to the FAA, engineers traced the root cause to a propellant leak in the ship's aft section that starved 2 Raptor engines of the methane they needed to relight for the controlled landing burn. The leak, in turn, was triggered by a tiny fracture in a weld that had been stressed by repeated cryogenic thermal cycles. To fix it, SpaceX redesigned the weld geometry, swapped to a slightly thicker stainless steel alloy, and added redundant pressure sensors so flight computers can detect and isolate leaks milliseconds faster. They also tweaked the landing flick maneuver. Yes, the same belly flop to tail down sequence that still looks like CGI to most people, to reduce aerodynamic stress on the aft flaps. And this is the part most people miss. SpaceX quietly slipped in a software update that lets the ship hover slam at a slightly higher altitude, giving the engines more margin to relight if 1 or 2 fail. Critics say that's a band-aid, not a cure. Fans counter that rapid iteration is exactly how you reach Mars before NASA's 2040 target. The upcoming flight profile. If the weather cooperates and the Gulf Coast has been mercilessly stormy this summer, the 120-meter-tall stack will lift off from Starbase in Boca Chica, Texas, at 7:30 a.m. local time. The Super Heavy booster, powered by 33 Raptor engines producing 16 million pounds of thrust, will separate at T+2 minutes 45 seconds, flip around, and attempt a precision landing in the Gulf of Mexico on a virtual landing tower. No physical arms yet, just a GPS box the size of a pickup truck. Meanwhile, the Starship upper stage will continue eastward, arc over the Atlantic, and re-enter over the Indian Ocean before splashing down north of Hawaii. The entire mission is expected to last about 90 minutes. Why the FAA moved so fast? Normally, a mishap investigation drags on for months. This time, the FAA accepted SpaceX's non-public report, meaning the juicy technical details remain sealed, because no public property was damaged and no injuries occurred. That decision has already sparked heated debate on aerospace forums. Some veteran engineers worry that transparency is being sacrificed for speed. Others applaud the agency for trusting a company that has racked up more than 300 successful Falcon landings. Which side are you on? What success or failure means for the future? A flawless flight would clear the path for the next milestone, catching the Super Heavy booster with the towering chopsticks. On the launch mount, a stunt that looked impossible until SpaceX pulled it off in Flight 5. It would also keep NASA's Artemis 3 timeline on track, since Starship is slated to serve as the human landing system that will ferry astronauts from lunar orbit to the moon's surface as early as 2026. A repeat failure, however, could reopen the question of whether SpaceX is pushing too hard, too fast, and whether the agency should diversify its lunar lander portfolio. Controversial thought: is SpaceX's fail fast, fix faster mantra actually safer than NASA's famously cautious approach? Or does it just look safer because spectacular explosions are live-streamed and dissected in real time? Drop your take below. Agree, disagree, or roast us for even asking. How to watch. The webcast will go live roughly 30 minutes before liftoff on SpaceX's YouTube channel and X, formerly Twitter. Pro tip: set an alarm for T-45 minutes. The last 2 flights slipped by a day due to last-minute valve issues. Final teaser: if Starship nails this landing, Elon Musk has hinted that Flight 11 could attempt a full orbital insertion and deorbit burn, something no vehicle this size has ever done. But that's a big if, and the FAA still hasn't published its environmental assessment for increased launch cadence. Translation: the drama is far from over. So, are you betting on a picture-perfect splashdown or preparing for another jaw-dropping fireball? Let us know in the comments. Best hot take wins bragging rights in next week's newsletter.